Hey everyone, it's Tammy. Hope you guys are having a great day today. Thanks for tuning in wherever you are on this fabulous planet of ours. I've really been developing content for these upcoming courses or I should say, this upcoming course in aromatherapy as a lifestyle. So it's kind of taken me away from doing these kinds of videos because I'm doing videos for that particular content. That said, as opposed to just trying to say, hey, and trying to prove anything. It's a different way of working with essential oils is basically what I'm proposing. I mean, there's one school of thought which is very common throughout any health modalities is there's a symptom, we identify a particular system, and then we work with that. And what I'm talking about with the oils is more in line with stabilization. Um, yeah, and I know I've talked about it, but that's really, and the stabilization comes from long-term effects. So we can look at long-term effects and we can look at short-term effects, which would be symptom relief. And truthfully, I'm all about doing both short-term and long-term. It's kind of like formulating them together. And this part of this came to mind when I was talking with a client the other day, and we had done a digestive formula. Her husband has muscular dystrophy, and we did a digestive formula from, although he wasn't demonstrating any sort of, or he wasn't displaying any signs of digestive distress, so to speak. I still went along those lines because, well, when the body's ill and living with a health condition, it's fair to say that it's under pressure to restore wellness. We are in what I would call chronic survival mode, or just the never-ending stress mechanism. The stress mechanism has been activated and it's ongoing and it's not letting up. And when this happens, we ultimately have digestive disruption. Okay, it's just an alteration in the way the body is breaking down nutrients because technically, when the fight or flight mechanism has been activated, the body isn't as focused on breaking down nutrients because it's supposed to be a temporary. Um, it's a temporary. Oh my goodness. Situation. That's how I want to say it. I mean, technically, stress is designed to be temporary, or it's meant to be. Wait, I should say the body is designed for it to be temporary because it has the ability to activate and deactivate all of these functions. So I hope that makes sense. So theoretically, the fight or flight response is activated and the system is altered. As a result, it no longer breaks down the macronutrients as well, or it has the ability to assimilate them because some functions have been turned off or modified in order to maintain the survival of the organism. So then again, when the threat is over, the body is wired to reverse all of that and go back into fully digesting our foods and using them more effectively, or for the ability to thrive and keep the inflammation and the balanced. So that said, when I was speaking with her, and her statement to me was, well, we haven't really been using it because they got it from me in September. And I'm talking about someone I just spoke to the other day. Got it in September, and they still have it, and it's because they don't use it. She says we really didn't see much of anything with it, so we just stopped using it. And so I had to express to her that although there was no real indication of digestive distress, there is in fact a digestive disruption. Otherwise, he would be producing and using proteins more effectively and being able to develop muscles. He's on the very thin side, very little muscle, and obviously with the muscular dystrophy, there's a lot of rigidity and muscle movement. Yeah, I'm going to just say rigidity. So I went back to explain to her that I wanted her to go keep him on it because ultimately the long-term effects is stabilization in the system. It's actually improving the way the body is breaking down the macronutrients and better using them at the cellular level. So that is one of the reasons. And one of the big words for me today, for some reason, is integrity. I mean, integrity in everything, the way we think. That our thoughts and our words and our actions all line up, and thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. Because I want to take it to the next level. Because one of the things that I identified about myself is that I can go into doing something and have a sense of like, I shouldn't be doing this, or this isn't, just wait, just almost come to a pause. But I'm in such a hurry or perceived need to get things done that I don't pay attention to that. And I think that this is what I need to do. So it's when our feelings and our thoughts and our words and our actions are all in line, that would be an integrity. And what I see about the oils is they actually help to restore integrity in the system. That is a big factor. So integrity provides stability. So this is along the lines of how I'm teaching people and working with people to improve their health. It's not necessarily the key answer for everybody, but it is very, very doable, and it works. And I say that because I've been using oils now for 30 years. I get asked a lot what company I represent. I get asked a lot about what company I would recommend because I don't represent a company. And as far as recommending a company, that really depends on what the individual is willing to pay, number one. And number two, what kind of oils that they're technically looking for. I've been talking about this on my oh my gosh, what's going on with me today? The Synergist's Facebook page. Say that 3 times fast, right? So I've been posting on the Synergist's Facebook page. Please join me over there because I am actually providing the fundamental information, Aromatherapy 101. Gets into the chemistry and the science of it. So it's rather complex. There are no real discussions going on. It's just I'm providing you with information. If we want a discussion, I would love to be able to do that. If we want to have, small little classes discussing some of the material, I'm happy to do that for donations. But in the meantime, if you want to get a hold of some free information, please go over to the Synergist's page. Because like I said, I'm putting a daily post on there. And it's just very small bits. And one of the things that I recently talked about was the quality of an essential oil. And we have to be very careful about that because, like with everything else in this world, we have additives and we have emulsifiers and we have enhancers, and you get it. Um, they're doing the same thing with the oils. So we want something that says pure, natural on the label. Pure, or it even says pure or natural. I really hate the idea that we even have to say natural, but you want it to say natural on that if you're you want to know your source. You also an absolute would be another one. Absolute means it's a very thick. It was extracted typically by enfleurage. So you want to have that a complete. It would also say complete. It's something else would say complete on the label. So those particular words are good to look for, or important to look for. Either that or something that says genuine and authentic. The genuine and authentic are the most therapeutic ones. Now, I want to say this. I was talking about this the other day as well. Therapeutic is not a classification of oil. Pure, natural, complete, absolute, those are qualifications of an oil because depending on the way they're extracted will actually provide those qualities. Genuine and authentic means that it is an oil that was been produced from one species. Okay, sometimes it's not a popular qualification because it takes farmers, harvesters to know, I mean, especially if plants are being harvested in the wild, they need to know what that's the same plant. They need to be able to examine that plant and make sure that it's the same plant. So a genuine and authentic oil actually is extracted from the same plant, the same species, not a variation of. For instance, those would become more along the lines of natural when they start mixing plants in the same batch for distillation. That's an important component because the genuine and authentic oils are the ones that they're actually testing when it comes to health. Yeah, health and wellness, when they're actually testing it on in vitro, um, with regards to the way different constituents affect genetic function. So that's an important piece right there. So yeah, go over to Synergescence on the Facebook page. The link is in the description box. Check it out, because again, these are really very important. But again, that's integrity. Okay, that's part of the integrity. Um, and like I said, the more genuine and authentic, the more we can establish a line of stabilization that comes from integrity. The oils are actually helping the body restore integrity, because when it becomes a diseased and disordered, there's a lack of integrity, right? I mean, there's an in sometimes we refer to an imbalance, but I don't like to think it was imbalance, because to me, the body's consistently seeking balance. That is how it's wired. So even though there's major disruption and disease and discomfort and so forth, that doesn't mean it's out of balance. It's in balance for what it needs right now. Balance is basically relative. So therefore, if we seek stability and we use the oils for that purpose, and now we are getting somewhere, we're making a headway, and actually encouraging the body to continually seek balance to where there's more ease, more comfort, more order, right? And more ability. Again, depending on the individual, because I realize physical disabilities aren't necessarily something that we can restore, but we can we can improve ability. Okay. So when it comes to me, though, I wanted to be really upfront. I talk about all these things. It's not just because I sat down one day and decided, hey, I'm going to go play with some oils. I've been interested in health and medicine since I was a girl. I had been exposed to a number of health issues and medications, and I mean, I was witness to a lot. Let me just put it that way. Then I got involved in in pharmacology and the pharmaceutical industry, primarily pharmacology. I wasn't selling medications, but I mean, yeah, I was pretty much involved in the working with the study of the development. And so, yeah, at any rate, I got involved with that. But because of my exposure to so many different health conditions, I've always had a spark of curiosity. And so I started kind of exploring where these medications were coming from. And this is where I began to learn more and more. Now, that said, I am not without my own health issues. Um, I don't have a bad situation. I'm one of those people that now would be considered in limbo. You can go to the doctor, you can say, I've got this going on, and they test you, and all the inflammatory markers are good. You know, there's really nothing that's showing in the blood. I mean, but you still have symptoms here and there, and then they come and they go. That's kind of where I'm at. 18 and a half years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. Yes, I've been working with the oils for 30 years, not necessarily in integrity with myself. And then I was diagnosed with MS. I had the lesions in my brain. I was major fatigue, muscle weakness, pain. It just vertigo, visual problems. I mean, there was all of this um, combination of symptoms. And like I said, I went in, I got the testing, and that's what they came back with. Potential for lupus was there, you know, but they were pretty confident it was um, MS. Because my kids were as young as they were, it was not in my interest, nor was my heart desire for my children to grow up and remember their mother as always being sick and tired and not being able to play and so forth. So I set out. I did start on the medications, thinking that they would actually help me feel better. And for the most part, they didn't. I became increasingly dependent upon them. My sleep just went out the window. My stress levels were up off the charts. So I thought, you know what, I've got this whole array of oils with me, and I've been working with them because I'd been working with them for a while. I've been involved with how I got introduced to them was actually I partnered with somebody to have a natural fragrance company here in the Santa Fe area. And so that's how I was actually introduced to the oils, even though I'd been in pharmacology and I'd been studying and learning about where plants were coming, where they were coming from, which was the study of plants primarily. Of course, there was a lot of organic chemistry and creating organic compounds, which technically aren't organic because they're not alive, but that's just a title we give them because they replicate true organic compounds. So at any rate, I got involved with the oils because I was already interested in plants. I never realized that the plant constituents that I was learning about were in fact coming mostly from essential oils. So as I was compounding, because of, again, my background in pharmacology, compounding came fairly naturally. So I was compounding in the labs. Um, I had a family. I couldn't travel. My partner, she traveled. So ultimately, I discovered the impact that these oils were having on me every single day. I was just floored because I was just so exposed to them. So I began exploring what my options might be when it came to learning more about them. And that's when I found my early mentors. That one of them I continue to work with to this day. I mean, I still kind of follow along with him, although I have taken his work and branched out at this point, which is Kurt Schnaubelt. But I've taken what he's been doing and I've expanded on that. So, at any rate, like I said, I've had the oils. They were around. I would use them occasionally. I use them with my children, but I wasn't keeping up with them for myself. I would use them primarily for symptom relief. And now here I was with this health condition. And of course, I was looking at them for symptom relief. It was right around that time that the Human Genome Project was being just about to be released and all the information was coming out. Um, and so at the same time, this is a developing, so there's no fault here. It's just that technically the oils were only introduced to the English speaking world or reintroduced to the English speaking world back in the late 70s. So this was a slow evolution. I was part of that journey, so to speak, of the unfolding of essential oils along the way. And as I progressed or moved forward in my life, I continued to use the oils on a regular basis. Fast forward to now 4 years ago, and it's fair to say that the lesions in my brain are gone. And while I do have occasional health issues that come up, basically nerve, you can definitely tell it's nerve. I'm beginning to understand more and more about what that's all about. Again, as I mentioned earlier, our conventional model, the typical model that we operate under in any health circumstance, is we identify, we focus on the symptoms and we identify the potential systems that are involved, and that's where we stay. In my case, I'm more interested in what's going on throughout my system. I mean, and I can have this, rat race or, you know, game of chase every single day trying to figure out which chemical's doing this and that. It's senseless. What I do know is if I work with stability, it can work with the nervous system. I can help to repair nerve damage. I mean, that is possible. But again, it's the inflammatory markers, it's the inflammation that has been present throughout my life. And so now I use oils every single day, regardless of what is going on with me, regardless. I mean, there may be days that I have absolutely no symptoms. I mean, some of my symptoms involve, I do have, and I have always had, and I've talked about this in other videos, significant issues with IBS, digestive, I mean, just terrible. So there's depending on what's going on in my life, there may be consistent days where I have to really focus on that. As a result of this, there's been circulation issues. Okay. Again, I can get into all the genetic complexes that are involved, but what I've discovered is I just use oils, and because it's me, all right, because at this point, I'm not aware of anybody else using the oils at this level. So I can't contact somebody to consult with and go, okay, so what do what formula should I do? And while I could be making formulas for me, I don't. I work with single essence. Now that said, I do use 3 to 4 oils at one time. So in theory, I am blending them. I'm just selecting them independently based on what appeals to me with my nose. In fact, I just posted that on Twitter. I mean, if you want to select an oil, one of the best ways to do it for yourself is to choose whatever is appealing to your sense of smell today. I know that sounds very strange, but this is the theory, and this is one premise of olfactory therapy. It's not the only one. Sometimes we want to, begin using more, if we have somebody to kind of tune in and help us make some determinations, we can select those oil, the oils will be selected at that point and be used interchangeably. I'm just thinking, I'm putting a pause because I want to think about that. Because typically what I do is I blend things for people, and I typically make 2 blends so that they can be used intermittent. I don't want to interchangeably to keep things different. Because one of the things about the body we have to remember is that the chemistry is consistently changing. That's the reason why some days I have experiences of IBS and other days I don't. This is the reason why sometimes we see flare-ups with autoimmune disorders. This is why sometimes people are more depressed or more anxious on one day. The chemistry is constantly changing. I've talked about this a lot. We are walking chemistry labs. I mean, that's what's happening. Our body is answering the information coming in, whether it be internal processes that need to occur or external chemicals coming in and influencing our system to react. At the same time, the body's having to survive. So there's a lot happening in any given moment, and our chemistry is never the same. That's the reason why, to at least begin selecting oils for yourself, the best way to do it is to have an assortment and start to just sniff and see which one actually appeals to you. Or which few actually appeal to you, and just consider that that's actually what your body's asking for. I've taught, if we think about if we crave foods, okay. Good example is lately I have found myself like totally digging like pasta and cheese, which is totally out of character for me, and nuts. Now, if we stop and think about that, if we just kind of get out of the, because they're raw nuts, by the way. I'm not eating them salted and roasted. So I just want to clarify that it's not the salt that I'm going for. Um, but when you step away, just kind of look at that category of foods. If I think about how I feel when I eat pasta with a creamy sauce, or, like a cheesy sauce, it's very soothing, very, very soothing. Um, there's clearly dairy in there. There's obviously fat in there, and then there's the carbs from the pasta. Because I'm not picky about what the pasta is. I just, again, it's completely out of character for me. But this is right now. Okay, it's the middle of January. It's cold, and especially with where I'm at, as you can see, stone walls. I mean, this is it. This is what and it's built in the hill. And so what's really cool is in the summertime, it keeps us cool. But in the wintertime, it requires to maintaining the heat. So of course, my body is now craving something differently to keep my energy levels up, to actually have fuel. Okay. So even though in the spring, later in the spring, in the summertime, you won't even see those foods on my plates, and very little would you ever see the nuts. Right now, my body is asking for the fat, and it's asking for the carbohydrates, because clearly carbohydrates are a source of energy, as is fat. Okay. Fat is also a source of insulation. So this is what my body's asking for. This is what I'm talking about when I say sniff an oil. It may sound strange, may sound silly, but try it out, because your body actually knows what it needs. And even though you may not know what constituents are in that oil specifically, you could look them up. You don't know for sure unless somebody's actually given you a printout and a graphing of that very oil that you have in that bottle. If you don't have that, it's very difficult for you to be 100% sure of the percentages. And it could be a particular constituent or a combination of constituents, because that's where it is. It comes down to the synergy. It could be the combination of constituents that your body's like, yeah, that works for me today. Tomorrow it may not be the same thing. So that would be my suggestion, kind of a fun thing to try out and just see how you do with it. Because I get that there's symptoms. I understand that there are symptoms. And if there isn't a symptom that needs, requires more of an immediate attention, then by all means, do it, work with it. I'm not saying don't treat the symptom, but I'm saying consider that when you smell these oils, you're actually also getting the long-term effects. And again, the long-term effects could be estrogen enhancing. It increases estrogen levels. Right now, avoid those. These are things that we talk about in aromatherapy as a lifestyle, and we need to be paying more attention to what these different oils can absolutely do. And so, focusing on ones that are more about stability and being, and I'm going to say, please also use caution if you're taking medications. Um, I don't want to just make a blanket recommendation and everybody go out there and just start sniffing oils. If you're taking SSRIs or you're taking MAOI or you're taking cholesterol medication or you're taking blood thinners, there's oils you don't want to be using. If you're diabetic and you're taking medications for your diabetes, there's medications you don't want to be used. I mean, there's oils you don't want to mix with the medications. So you have to use caution. And this is where somebody like me comes in. I'm happy to help you understand what works with what. This is also something we're talking about in aromatherapy as a lifestyle, because we have to know how to integrate them safely, because there's so much that we're exposed to on a regular basis that essential oils, for as much as I love them, require a great deal more of respect than they're getting. And so if you've listened this far, I want to thank you very much for at least tuning in, just hearing me out, because this is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And if I can um, pass this along to other people, then that just makes my heart smile. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Check it out, Aromatherapy is a Lifestyle. Let's do a launch in the middle of February. In the meantime, you can sign up today and get it for half off up until the 15th of February. I'm also reintroducing Breaking the Cycle of Disease Management. You can find that on synergessence.com as well. So that link is in the description box below. And like I said, join me on Facebook, the Synergessence Facebook page, as well as Instagram and Twitter, which is at TammyDavis8. All right, you guys. Take care. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm always happy to talk to you about what I use or why. Not necessarily. I mean, let me just say this. When I get asked about what oils I use, the answer is I've been buying oils from around the world for as long as I've been using them, which is about 30 years. I do not work with a particular company. I do work with individual farmers, but it's been a long time relationship. But if there's other questions that you have about, potential oil companies, let me know. I'm happy to maybe, direct you if that's the case. Or I'm also happy to make something for you. Again, you can sign up for that on the website. If you're looking for a consult, you can sign up for that on the website. And if you'd like to have a live class, if we'd like to start doing live classes, let me know. I would love to do that. Again, I would ask for a donation, whatever you can, whatever works for you and is comfortable for you. But I would love to be able to expand on this information that I'm sharing on Synergessence Facebook. So thanks again for watching. You guys have a beautiful day wherever you are, and I will talk with you very soon.